Today we're going to start 1.2. So if you would, in your notes, make sure you are on the 1.2 adding integers. And remind me again, guys, what is an integer? A positive or negative whole number. Very good. Okay, so if you look on this first slide right here, is there any red right there? No. So we're going to write everything right now in a pencil. Okay, you're only going to write in red if it's in red on my screen. All right, the first thing it says is additive inverse. Inverse is just a fancy word for saying opposite. Okay, so it's the opposite of any number. Do you guys know what the opposite of negative 5 is? You're right, positive 5. So in the blank, if everyone would go ahead and write positive 5. What do you think the opposite of positive 7 is? Negative 7. Very good. Let's write that in the blank. Okay, so the additive inverse or the inverse is just the opposite of any number. Let's look at the next one. It says additive inverse property. That's just a really fancy way to say shortcut. How many of you guys like shortcuts? All right, a shortcut in homework, would that help you to make it faster or slower? You would do it faster. So my goal as a teacher is to teach you the fastest way that you could do something. So in this case, I'm going to teach you a property or a shortcut. This is what it says. The sum of a number and its opposite is always going to be what? 0. So you can see I've given you an example right here. 10 plus negative 10 equals 0. What do you guys think 5 plus negative 5 would be? 0. What about 30 plus negative 30?
0.
What about 40 plus negative 40?
0.
All right, a number and its opposite will always equal 0, okay? So that's what the additive inverse property tells us. Now I'm going to tell you something super important. I want you to pull out your red pen because you can see I've got some red stuff up here, okay? Go ahead and fill in the blanks for me as I talk to you about this. These are the rules for adding integers. And we're writing it in red because that means it's very important and it's something you're going to need to know to really understand the concept or the lesson of today. This is what it says. Same sign, add the numbers, and keep the sign. So anytime you see this little hashtag right here, that means a shortcut or a short word for number, okay? So you add the numbers and keep the sign. Different signs, here's the rule. Subtract the numbers and take the sign of the larger number. All right, now, I want you to go ahead and make sure you've written this in red pen, fill in all the blanks, and then I'm going to tell you an easy way that we can learn these rules. All right, so this little song is to the tune of Row, Row, Row Your Boat, and I want you guys to sing it with me. We're going to sing it through 2 times. Ready, begin. Same sign, add and keep, different sign, subtract. Take the sign of the larger number, then you'll be exact. One more time. Same sign, add and keep, different sign, subtract. Take the sign of the larger number, then you'll be exact. Excellent. Go ahead and have a seat. That is going to be a song we're going to use for a while to help us learn how to add and subtract integers. Now, there's one more thing that's super important, and I want you to pull out your red pen, and I'd like you to fill in the blanks on this next section. Here's what it says. Every number has a sign, and that sign is directly in front of that number. Now, a lot of times in our notes, I'm going to have you guys put a red fluffy cloud around something because it means it's important, okay? So I want you to draw a red fluffy cloud around the section you had above this and this one down here. Just draw a big cloud around that section above it that you wrote in red and this little statement right here. Here's why we're drawing a cloud. This helps us to know this is important, and Mrs. Vorpal really wants me to know this concept. So it's just kind of a way to make it stand out when you're looking over your notes, reviewing for homework, quizzes, or tests. Let's talk about this one more time. Everybody read me what this cloud says. Go ahead. Every number has a sign, and that sign is directly in front of that number. Okay, so let's look at this number. You don't need to write this down. Is that a positive or a negative number?
Positive.
That is positive, okay? Now, there's an understood plus right there, but you don't have to put plus 5. We just know that means positive 5. What is this sign right there?
Negative.
A negative 3, okay? So now I want you to look at this. If I had 5 minus 3, tell me, what kind of a number is that 5?
Positive.
That's a positive, okay? What kind of a number is this 3?
Positive.
Okay, I heard positive and I heard negative, but here's what I want you to point out, and you've got to kind of train your mind to think this. Every number has a sign, and that sign is directly in front of that number. Guys, what sign do you see in front of the 3? Now, you guys might say, no, that's a minus sign. Well, if I am subtracting something, I'm taking it away, right? And if I take something away, that's negative. So that 3 is actually a negative number because it has a negative or a minus sign directly in front of it, okay? So let's look at this one. -4 plus 2. What kind of a number is this? Negative. What kind of a number is that? Positive. So do those have the same sign or a different sign? Those have different signs. So same sign, add and keep, different sign, subtract. So I'm going to subtract these numbers. What does 4 minus 2, what is that? Okay, 4 minus 2 is 2, and take the sign of the larger number. Which one was larger, the 4 or the 2? The 4 is a larger absolute value. So because the value of that is larger, we are going to keep the negative, okay? So we're going to do some examples here that hopefully this will make a little bit more sense. Let's look at this first one right here. It says -4 plus -2. Every number has a sign, and that sign is directly in front of that number. Are these same sign or different sign? Okay, look, -4, -2. Same sign or different sign, guys?
Same.
That's the same sign. Remember our song? Same sign. What do? Add and keep. We're going to add those numbers together. So, guys, what's 4 plus 2? 6. And then it says add and keep. Keep the sign. What sign did we have there? A negative. So my answer is going to be -6. Now listen, in this class, I want you to always work down. So I would like your answer to be directly underneath this problem. So if you just wrote -6 over here, I want you to go ahead and erase that and put it directly underneath the problem, okay? Because always in our class, we're going to work down. All right, let's go to problem B. If you go to problem B, which is over here, I have -5 plus -10. Remember, every number has a sign, and that sign is directly in front of that number. So what kind of a number is this first one? Negative. What kind of a number is the second one?
Negative.
Same sign or different sign?
Same.
Remember the song. Sing it with me. Same sign, add and keep. We're going to add the numbers and keep the sign. So add it together, guys. What's 5 plus 10? 15. Now keep the sign. What sign did we have there? Negative. Everybody box that in, okay? So every time that we get an answer, we are going to box it in. Now, something that's super important in this class, you don't want to go ahead of me because I haven't taught you everything I want you to know yet. So make sure if on my screen you can see we've only done through problems A and B, please do not move on without me, okay? Let's go on to the next one. How would I read problem C, class? What's it say? 5 plus -10. Let's look at the 5. Is that a positive or a negative?
Positive.
Let's look at the 10. Is that a positive or a negative?
Negative.
Same sign or different sign?
Different.
Different. Sing the song with me. How's it go? Same sign, add and keep, different sign.
Subtract.
Let's subtract them. What is 10 minus 5? 5. And then it says, take the sign of the larger number. What's the larger absolute value? A 5 or a 10?
10.
A 10. So is my answer going to be positive or negative?
Negative.
It is negative. Fantastic. What should I do to that final answer? Let's box it in. Good job. Is there anyone who thinks that you might help me with problem D? Like you think you're kind of getting it? Let me have Abigail. Same sign or different sign on problem D? Different. Same sign, add and keep, different sign. So I'm going to subtract it. What's 7 minus 3? 4. Take the sign of the larger number. Positive or negative? Okay, let's look at the larger number. What's bigger, a 3 or a 7? A 7. So my answer is going to be? 4. Very good. Okay, do I need to put a positive there, class? No. We understand in 7th grade if there's no sign, it means that it is positive. Excellent work. Thank you for your help. Who would like to help me with problem E? Autumn. Same sign or different sign? Different is correct. Same sign, add and keep, different sign. Subtract. What is 8 minus 4?
4.
And is it going to be a positive or negative? Positive, because the 8 was the bigger one, and that is a positive. Excellent job. Let's go ahead and box that in. Let's go on to the next and final one in this section, F. Who would like to help me with problem F? Jonathan, same sign or different sign? Different sign. Subtract and take the sign of the larger number. So what do you think the answer is? A -7, that is correct. All right, any questions for me on this first section that we've done together? Okay, let's look at the next part. There's a thing here that I've written in and I've kind of typed it in for you in your notes, but it's super important. So we're going to take our red pen and I want you to draw a red fluffy cloud around this idea right here because I want this to stand out. This is the new concept I'm going to teach you. It's a double negative. Two negatives side by side with no number between them. How many of you guys have ever been around a negative person? Do they say nice things or mean things if it's a negative person? Mean things typically, okay? Now listen, when one negative person gets around another negative person, they just keep talking bad and negatively, right? That's not good. We would much prefer people to be positive and happy and say good things. So instead of having two negatives around, I would rather turn it into a positive. So I want you to remember that idea. If you have a double negative, we're going to get rid of it and we're going to turn it into a monster positive sign. So looking at this first example, you can see right here, it says 3 minus -1. We don't like those double negative signs. Instead, I want you to take your red pen and I want you to connect these two. We're going to turn that big negative into a monster positive sign. Directly underneath it with your pencil, let's rewrite that, okay? Because I like to have nice, clean work in math. So we're going to put 3 plus 1. Guys, what is 3 plus 1? 4, okay? So the answer to what looked like a difficult problem of 3 minus -1 is not too difficult. It simply means the answer is 4, okay? So let's look at this next one right here. Do you guys see the double negative? Remember, it means two negative signs side by side with no number in between them. Notice there is no number in between these two negative signs. Do we like two negatives side by side? No. So we're going to turn it into a monster positive. Once again, with your red pen, just for the sake of our notes, I would like you to turn that double negative into a monster positive. Now remember, we're going to rewrite it just so our work looks nice and neat, and we're going to rewrite it as 12 plus 9. Could anyone tell me what 12 plus 9 is? What is it? 21. Okay, remember you're going to work straight down and then box in that answer. Now the next one's a little bit different. I can see negative, negative, negative. There is no such thing as a triple negative, okay? Here's what I want you to understand. If I were only to look at, I'm going to erase this, pretend that's not there. If I only saw -10 and minus, this is not considered a double negative because what's in between those negative signs? A number, a 10, okay? Read me again in red what it says at the very top of our slide. What is a double negative, class? Two negatives side by side with no number between them. Because that had a number in between, that's not considered a double negative. Do you guys see the double negative there, though? Yes. Yes. Take your pencil, and what should we do to that double negative? Turn it into a monster positive. Let's turn that into a plus sign instead, okay? Because two negatives side by side turns into a positive. Let's rewrite that directly underneath so it's neat, okay? I want you to do this with your pencil. -10 plus 5. Now we have a normal problem like what we were just doing in the section above this. Reagan, do I have same sign or different sign? Different sign. Same sign, add and keep, different sign, subtract. Reagan, what's 10 minus 5? 5. Take the sign of the larger number. Negative. So what's our final answer, Reagan? -5 is correct. Any questions about the double negative? All right, I want you to take your notes and flip to the back side of today's lesson. We're going to take those concepts that we just did and we are going to evaluate these expressions. Evaluate is simply a big word to mean solve, okay? So we're going to solve this. Now here's the deal. A lot of times I don't like when we have letters in math. Doesn't it seem like we should just have numbers in math? So we're going to get rid of these letters and we're going to plug in some numbers. Repeat after me. Plug it in, plug it in. Plug it in. All right, so instead of a B, our instructions up here told us that B equals something. What does B equal?
4.
Not 4. -4. Okay, remember, every number has a sign, and that sign is directly in front of that number. So we've got to keep that negative with us. Instead of B, we're going to plug in a -4. Now, there's this little sign right here. What sign is that, guys? A negative or a minus. So everyone, repeat after me. Drop it down. We are going to drop that down. Now I still have to plug something else in. What do I still need to plug in? Okay, the C needs to become a -3. So I am going to, don't think that we already have a negative there. That was our minus sign. Now we're going to plug in a -3. What do you guys see there? A double negative. What do I have to do to a double negative? Turn it into a monster positive, okay? So now I'm going to rewrite it, and that simply means -4 plus 3. We learned the rules, same sign, add and keep, different sign, subtract and take. Raise your hand if you think you know what the answer is to -4 plus 3. Autumn, what do you think?
-7.
She says -7. Let's check this out, okay? Same sign or different sign here, Autumn?
Different.
Same sign, add and keep, different sign.
Oh, subtract.
Subtract, so we don't want to add them. So what's 4 minus 3? A 1, and take the sign of the larger number.
Negative.
Good job. So the answer is going to be -1. Okay, let's go to the next one. We're going to go over here to problem B. Plug it in, plug it in. What do you think I should do first with this little negative sign? We're going to drop it down, okay? We can't just get rid of it. We've got to keep it there. So let's drop down that negative sign. Jacoby, what does C stand for? A -3. Now we're going to go ahead and plug in -3. Next up, what do you think I should do with that minus sign, class? We're going to drop it down. We've got to bring it down with us, okay? So I'm bringing down the negative, and now I've got to plug in the A. Luke, what does A stand for? +2 is correct, okay? So now you can see where I've kind of plugged these numbers in. Does anybody see the double negative? Okay, 2 negatives side by side with no number between them. I have to turn it into a monster positive. So take your pencil and let's turn those into a plus. Okay, do I need to keep that plus there?
No.
No, you never have to have a plus there at the very beginning. So it could just be 3 minus 2. Guys, what's 3 minus 2? 1 is correct. What should I do to my final answer? We are going to box it in. Very good job. Let's go to the next one. This was in the video I showed you at the beginning, and it was also in the 1.1 lesson. What do those straight lines stand for?
Absolute value.
Absolute value. Very good job. Okay, so if you remember, you don't need to write this down, but an absolute value, whenever you have it, let's say it looked like this. Absolute value is how far away a number is from what?
0.
From 0. So what would the absolute value of -2 be? 2, because it's 2 hops or 2 skips away from 0, okay? So that's what the idea of absolute value is. We're going to keep our absolute value lines here, and right now we're just going to worry about plugging in A plus B. Maddie, what is A? 2, very good job. And then I'm going to bring down my plus. And Jocelyn, what is B? -4. Now, sometimes people will add parentheses around a negative numbers just so that they can see, oh, that's a negative number. But you don't have to have the parentheses there. That's up to you if you would like them to be there, okay? Now, let's look at this. Ellie, do I have same sign or different sign inside of this? Different sign. So I have to subtract and take. Do you know what 2 plus -4 would be, Ellie? You are correct, -2. So what I'm going to do is I have to still bring down my absolute value, but she figured out 2 plus -4 is -2. Now I'm not done with my problem yet because it's asking me what is the absolute value of -2? What is it, guys?
2.
It's just plain old 2. Because remember, with absolute value, you will never have a negative. And then go ahead and box that in. Any questions on problem C? All right, Jace, let's go to the next one. Jace, do you happen to know what it means when there's this little line right there? To divide. Good job. Anytime you have a fraction, that means to divide. So we're doing A over B, or A divided by B. Jace, help me plug this in. What does A stand for? +2 over or divided by, what is B? -4. Very good. Now, do you guys remember what it means to reduce? Does reduce mean to make bigger or smaller? Smaller. Do you think this can get reduced at all? Pretend that the negative wasn't there, okay? And it was just 2/4. Can that be reduced at all?
Yes.
What does 2/4 reduce to? 1/2, okay? So instead of having 2/4, it's going to be 1/2. But notice I had a negative. Do you see that? We can't just let the negative disappear. So I'm going to take that negative. You can either attach it right here, or you can put it on the outside to say the answer is -1/2. Okay, and that is the final answer. Now, if you had written it 1/-2, that would also be correct because those both mean the same thing. Okay, thank you, Jace. Any questions for me on problem D? All right, excellent. So that's the last of the new concepts for today. Next up, what we're going to do is a think, pair, share section, where I'm going to have you try to think about it on your own, and then we're going to talk and see if you got the correct answers or not. All right, we're going to see what kind of answers you guys got for this think, pair, share section. Who can tell me what's one answer that you and your partner came up with on number 1? What did you guys get?
12.
Okay. Who got a different answer than 12? What'd you get? -12. Who got a different answer than positive or -12? Okay, let's look at this and we're going to figure out one of those answers is correct. Remember, say the saying with me. Every number has a sign, and that sign is directly in front of that number. Let's say that again. Every number has a sign, and that sign is directly in front of that number. Okay, so this is that sign, and this is that sign. Same sign or different sign? Same sign, add and keep, different sign. Okay, so we subtracted. Everyone did 12 minus 8, or 20 minus 8, which is 12. Now here's the second part of that song. Take the sign of the larger number. What's larger, a 20 or an 8? A 20. So should our answer be positive or negative? Positive. It should be positive. If you didn't get that, that's okay. Erase it and fix it. The correct answer is positive 12. If you got that, give yourselves a round of applause. All right, fantastic. Let's go on to number 2. 30 plus -30. This was that idea of a number and its opposite. What does it always equal, class? 0. 0 is correct. Give me 2 thumbs up if you got that correct answer. Fantastic. If you didn't, that's okay. Erase it and fix it. All right, let's go on to the third think, pair, share. Let's see this. Is 3 plus -4 the same as -4 plus 3? Raise your hand if you think yes, it is the same. Raise your hand if you think no, it is not the same. Okay, let me explain something to you. Let's talk about this. 5 plus 2. Is 5 plus 2 the same as 2 plus 5? Yes or no? So guess what? In this case, we have 3 plus -4. That's the same thing as -4 plus 3. Here's the only thing it did. This 3 switched spots. The -4, it's still a negative. It just switched spots, okay? So the correct answer is yes, it is the same. Now, here's a really long answer when it says to explain. So I'm not going to make you guys write this down. But why? Every number has a sign, and that sign is directly in front of that number. The 3 stayed positive, and the 4 stayed negative. So it doesn't matter which order it goes in. That's called the commutative property, and we'll talk about that later. It doesn't matter what order it's in. As long as it's the same numbers, you can switch it around, and you will get the same answer. Can anyone tell me what is 3 plus -4?
It's -1.
It would have been -1. Now, guys, let's look at this. What would -4 plus 3 be?
-1.
Also -1. It means the same thing. Okay? Let's go to the next one. This one was a true or false. The sum of 2 negative integers is always negative. Raise your hand if you and your partner thought that was true. Raise your hand if you thought it was false. Okay, I've got answers on both sides. Let's do an example. A lot of times that helps me. The sum of 2 negative integers. Let's talk about this word sum. What's that mean? Add, plus, okay? So I'm going to put a plus. 2 negative integers. Who can give me one negative integer? -4, okay? Give me another negative number. -5. Guys, same sign or different sign there? Same sign, add and keep. Add the numbers, keep the sign. What would that be? -9. So here's my question. The sum of 2 negative integers, so if I have 2 negative numbers, it's always going to be negative. Is that true? That is true. Okay, so a lot of times if you're like, goodness, that's a lot of words and I'm not really sure, try to plug in numbers to see what would make sense for that answer. Okay, then we've got one final problem here. Raise your hand if you put true for this one. Raise your hand if you put false. Okay, here's what it says. The sum of an integer, what does sum mean? Add. An integer and its absolute value, okay? So let's say that we have the integer -2, okay? Or no, let's say we've got +2 and its absolute value. Guys, what's the absolute value of +2? 2. So that would be 2 plus 2 equals what? 4. Is this true? It always equals 0? No. So the correct answer would be false. Okay, so that is the end of lesson 1.2. We're going to stop there for today.